The human freighter steady compass came out of hyperspace with a soft shudder. Through the bridge windows, orbital station Helix 7 filled the view like a giant metal flower spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Lights blinked across its surface. Ships of all sizes moved around it like insects around a hive. Stood at the captain's chair and watched the station grow larger. He was an old man now, with gray in his hair and lines on his face from too many years in space. But his eyes were still sharp, and his hands were still steady on the controls. "Docking request accepted," said the voice from the station. "Proceed to Bay 14. Nodded to his pilot, a young man named who smiled too much for someone who flew through asteroid fields for a living. Guided the ship forward with easy movements, and within 20 minutes, the steady compass was locked to the station with a heavy clunk of metal. Was already waiting at the airlock with the rest of the crew. She was tall for a woman, with short black hair and eyes that never seemed to rest. She had been a soldier once, fighting in wars that most people in the galaxy did not know about. Now she worked as a security escort for human ships, keeping crews safe in places where humans were still new and strange. "Everyone remembers the protocol?" she asked. The crew nodded. There was the young engineer with nervous hands, the medic who rarely spoke but always watched. Second in command, a man with scars on his arms and a calm face, who moved so quietly that people often forgot she was there. And joining them now from the bridge, still wearing that easy smile. "Let's go," said. The airlock opened, and they stepped onto Helix 7. The arrival terminal was enormous. The ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top, soft white puffs drifting in the recycled air. The floor was made of something that looked like polished stone but felt warm under their boots. Aliens of many species moved in all directions. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others had 4 legs or 6 or none at all. Some floated. Some crawled. The air was filled with sounds that human ears could barely understand. And in the center of the terminal stood the resonance scanners. They were beautiful machines, tall arches made of silver metal that seemed to glow from inside. Every passenger who entered the station had to walk through them. The scanners would read their bodies, check for weapons, look for signs of sickness, and even measure something the aliens called hostile intent. No one really knew how that part worked, but the Galactic Compact trusted these machines completely. They had been working perfectly for 200 years. Every species in the galaxy walked through without question. Stopped her crew 20 meters from the scanner arch. "Here," she said. "Sit down." Blinked. "Here, on the floor." "Yes." The crew looked at each other. Then, one by one, they sat down on the warm floor, their backs against a pillar, their eyes facing the scanner arch. Sat with them. She pulled a ration bar from her pocket and began to eat. Joined them a minute later, moving slowly with his old knees. He groaned as he lowered himself to the floor, but he was smiling slightly. "Been a while since we did this," he said. "Too long," replied. They sat there, eating their rations, drinking water from pouches and watching the scanner gate. Aliens walked past them and stared. A group of tall insect-like beings with shiny shells and many eyes clicked their mandibles in what might have been laughter. A floating creature that looked like a jellyfish drifted overhead and hummed with confusion. 2 small furry beings pointed at the humans and spoke in high voices to each other. The humans did not move. Time passed, 1 hour, 2 hours. Finally, in a different uniform approached them. This one was larger than the others, with gold markings on its shell that showed high rank. Its many eyes studied the humans with clear confusion. "I am Supervisor," the said, its voice coming from a translator device on its chest. "I am in charge of security for this terminal. Why are you sitting here? The scanners are working. You may proceed." Looked up at the supervisor but did not stand. "We are waiting," she said. "Waiting for what?" "We will know when we see it." Made a clicking sound that the translator could not convert. It turned to a nearby security officer, a smaller with green shell markings. "Why are they sitting by the gate?" demanded. The officer approached, who was the oldest and looked the most approachable. "Honored passenger, the supervisor wishes to know why you are not proceeding through security." Chewed his ration bar slowly. He swallowed. He looked at the officer with tired but kind eyes. "We don't trust your scanners yet," he said simply. The officer's many eyes blinked one after another, like a wave. It turned back to and repeated the words. went very still. For a long moment, the supervisor said nothing. Then its mandibles clicked rapidly, anger perhaps, or shock. The resonance scanners have worked flawlessly for 200 years, said, stepping closer to the humans. Every species in the Galactic Compact uses them. Every threat has been detected. Every weapon has been found. There has never been a single failure. Never. And you sit on my floor and say you do not trust them. Finally stood. She was shorter than, but she did not seem small. She met the supervisor's many eyes without fear. Your scanners are very good, she said. But we have learned to be careful. We will watch for a while. We will see who comes through. And then, when we are satisfied, we will proceed. This is an insult to the Compact. It is not meant to be. It is simply how we do things. Made more clicking sounds. Other aliens in the terminal had stopped to watch now. The humans had become a small spectacle, strange creatures who refused to follow the rules that everyone else accepted without question. How long will you wait? Asked. Looked back at her crew. Was watching the scanner arch with focused eyes, was counting something on his fingers, sat perfectly still like a statue, had somehow become nearly invisible against the pillar, was eating a second ration bar and humming softly. As long as it takes, said. Stared at her for a long moment. Then the supervisor turned and walked away, mandibles clicking with frustration. The humans sat back down and continued to watch the gate. Beings of many species walked through the scanners. The machines hummed softly with each passing body. Green lights flashed again and again, showing that each passenger was clean, safe, and welcome. But did not look at the lights. She looked at the faces. She looked at the hands. She looked at the eyes. She looked for the tiny signs that no machine could ever see, the small movements that showed when something was wrong. Moved closer to her. Do you really think something will happen? The young engineer whispered. Did not answer right away. She watched a dignitary walk through the scanner, surrounded by attendants. The scanner showed green, the dignitary was clean, but saw the way the dignitary's secondary arms twitched slightly. She saw the way its eyes moved to specific points on the walls. She saw the way it walked, too smooth, too practiced, like someone following a script. Yes, said quietly, I think something will happen. And they continued to wait. 3 more hours passed. The humans sat by the pillar and watched the scanner gate like cats watching a mouse hole. Other passengers walked around them now, having grown used to the strange sight. A few aliens had even started taking pictures with their devices. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and humans who sat on the floor refusing to follow basic rules were even rarer. Was starting to get restless. She was young, only 23 years old, and this was her first trip beyond the Sol system. Everything about Helix 7 amazed her. The aliens, the technology, the sheer size of it all. She wanted to explore, to see the markets and the observation decks and the famous floating gardens that travelers talked about, but had told them to sit, so sat. Still, her curiosity got the better of her. She moved closer to and spoke in a low voice. I don't understand, said. The scanners really do work. I read about them before we left Earth. They use quantum resonance imaging. They can see through any material. They can detect explosives at the molecular level. They can even read brain patterns to find hostile intent. How can anything get past them? Did not look away from the scanner gate. Her eyes followed a group of aliens as they walked through. A family, it seemed, with small children bouncing around their parents. Let me tell you a story, said. Leaned in to listen. 8 years ago, I was stationed on a place called Hope. It was a trading station, smaller than this one, but still busy. Maybe 50,000 beings lived there. Humans, several other species, we all lived together. The station had resonance scanners just like these. Everyone trusted them completely. Paused. Her jaw tightened slightly. One day, a passenger ship arrived from the outer colonies. A transport carrying about 200 passengers. They all walked through the scanners. Every single one of them showed green, clean, safe, no weapons, no hostile intent, nothing wrong at all. Waited, feeling a cold sensation growing in her stomach. One of those passengers walked into the central market during the busiest hour of the day. It was a named something I cannot pronounce anymore. The scanners had cleared it. Security had smiled at it. It walked right into the middle of the crowd. Finally looked at. Her eyes were hard. And then it opened its chest cavity and released a biological weapon that had been grown inside its own body. Modified organs, engineered tissue, something so deeply woven into its living flesh that no scanner could tell the difference between the weapon and the body itself. Felt sick. How many? 312 dead, another 500 with permanent damage. I was one of the lucky ones. I was on the edge of the market when it happened. I only breathed a small amount of the toxin. Touched her chest lightly. My lungs still hurt sometimes when I breathe too deeply. The terminal around them suddenly felt different too. The happy sounds of traveling aliens now seemed wrong. The cheerful lights felt false. She looked at the scanner gate with new eyes. But the scanner should have seen the hostile intent, said. Even if the weapon was hidden, the person carrying it wanted to do harm. The brain pattern reading. The person carrying it did not know, said. The weapon was planted in them when they were young. They were raised to believe they were just a normal citizen. They had no memory of what was inside them. They thought they were simply going to visit family on Hope. And when they reached the market, a signal was sent from somewhere far away and the weapon activated. The carrier probably did not understand what was happening until it was already too late. Stared at, that's horrible. Yes, it is, and it taught us something very important. Turned back to watch the gate. These scanners were built by species who evolved in peace. They are a hive species. They work together naturally. Betrayal is almost unknown to them. The other founding species of the compact are similar. They came from worlds where cooperation was the only way to survive. They never developed the deep capacity for deception that humans have. Spoke now, his quiet voice surprising. She sometimes forgot the medic was there. They cannot imagine what we can imagine, said. Their machines look for threats that make sense to them. They do not look for threats that only a human mind would think of. So we watch, said. We look for the things that machines cannot see, the way someone moves, the way their eyes shift, the tiny hesitations in their steps, the small signs of a rehearsed action. Looked at the other crew members. Was studying a group of aliens near the gate with the same focus that a hunter might study tracks in the forest. Had positioned herself where she could see reflections in the polished walls, giving her a wider view of the terminal. Had stopped eating and was watching too, his easy smile now replaced by something sharper. Even Old was alert, his experienced eyes moving steadily across the crowd. They were all watching, all looking for something that no machine would catch. There, said suddenly. Everyone in the group tensed slightly, but none of them moved in an obvious way. They had trained for this. Where? Asked calmly. The dignitary that came through about 10 minutes ago, the one with the gold shell markings. He just stopped at a food vendor, but he is not eating. He is looking at the support pillars, third from the left and the fifth one near the observation window. Found the dignitary in the crowd. Was right. The alien was holding a container of food, but it was not eating. Its many eyes were fixed on specific structural points in the terminal. Could be nothing, said. Maybe it's an engineer. Maybe it likes architecture. Maybe, said. But mark it. Keep watching. Pulled out a small device and pretended to check his messages. He was actually taking pictures of the dignitary. I recognize that one, said slowly. Trade Minister. I saw its picture in the news feeds a few months ago. What news? Asked. Frowned, trying to remember. There was an accident, a transport explosion in the sector. Many important were killed. I think was one of them. The group went very still. You are saying that dignitary is supposed to be dead? Asked. I am saying I need to check. Pulled out his own device and began searching through old news files. Watched the dignitary, or whoever it was, as it moved through the terminal. It stopped to speak with another alien, then another, then a third. Each time the conversation was brief. Each time the other alien walked away in a different direction. 4 beings, 4 different species. All of them had passed through the scanners with green lights. All of them were now positioned at different points around the terminal. Found it, said, his voice grim. He showed his screen to a news article with a picture. The picture showed Trade Minister receiving an award. The article was dated 6 months ago. Below the picture was a headline. Trade Minister among 18 killed in transport disaster. Looked at the dignitary in the terminal. It looked exactly like the picture. Every detail was the same. But according to official records, trade minister had been dead for half a year. Someone is wearing a dead being's face, said quietly. The scanners would have caught that, said, but her voice was uncertain now. Wouldn't they? The scanners catch what they are designed to catch, replied. And I do not think anyone ever designed them to look for ghosts. She stood slowly, stretching as if she had simply grown tired of sitting. To anyone watching, she was just a human getting comfortable. But her eyes never left the dignitary. New plan, she said to her crew. We are not just watching anymore, we are tracking. Stay invisible and follow those 4 contacts. Find out where that compact summit is being held. I need you to get into the public information network and find out everything you can about that transport accident. You stay with me. What about me? Asked. Looked at the old captain. There was something in her eyes that did not recognize, something heavy. You have the most important job, said. When the time comes, I might need you to talk. Nodded slowly. He understood something that did not. The crew began to move, slowly and carefully, still appearing like casual travelers in no hurry. But they were no longer just passengers waiting at a gate. They were hunting. Supervisor found again 2 hours later. The human woman was no longer sitting by the pillar. She was standing near a food vendor, pretending to study the menu, but her eyes were somewhere else entirely. You are still here, said, mandibles clicking with annoyance. You have not gone through the scanners. This is unacceptable. I must insist that you either complete the security process or return to your ship immediately. Turned to face the supervisor. Her expression was calm, almost pleasant. I have a question for you, supervisor, she said. Made a sound of frustration. I do not have time for questions. I have a major diplomatic event happening in 3 hours. The Compact Summit begins today. Representatives from all 12 member species will be attending. I cannot have humans causing problems in my terminal. That is exactly what I wanted to ask about, said. How many assassination attempts has this station experienced in the last century? Paused. The question seemed to confuse it. None, the supervisor said finally. There have been no assassination attempts. The resonance scanners prevent all threats. That is why we use them. That is why everyone uses them. And how many of those potential threats came from species that understand deception the way humans do? Stared at her with its many eyes. I do not understand the question. Let me ask it differently. In your 200 years of perfect security, how many humans have passed through these scanners? The supervisor went quiet. Its mandibles moved slightly as it thought. Very few, admitted. Humans only made contact with the Galactic Compact 12 years ago. You are still considered a young species. Most humans stay close to your home system. So your scanners have never really been tested against us, said. Against minds that grew up with war and betrayal and deception as part of everyday life. The scanners read brain patterns. They detect hostile intent regardless of species. And what if the person carrying the weapon has no hostile intent? What if they do not even know they are a weapon? Went very still. Did not look away. What if someone could fool your scanners simply by not knowing they were going to do something terrible until the very last moment? That is not possible, said, but there was uncertainty in its voice now. I hope you are right, said. I really do. She turned and walked away, leaving the supervisor standing alone by the food vendor. In another part of the terminal was following the being they were calling. The dignitary had stopped at a rest area and was sitting on a curved bench, still holding that container of food it had never eaten. Kept his distance. He pretended to be a tired traveler, sitting on a bench of his own, checking his device, looking bored. But his eyes never left. The dignitary was waiting for something. Every few minutes, its eyes would move to one of the other contacts it had spoken to earlier. A small nod, a tiny gesture with its secondary arms, then back to waiting. Appeared beside without a sound. He did not jump. He was used to her moving like a ghost. I followed contact too, whispered. The tall one with the blue scales. It stopped at a maintenance access point and entered a code. The door opened. It went inside for about 5 minutes, then came back out. What is in there? I could not follow, but I looked at the station map. That maintenance corridor runs directly underneath the summit hall. Felt his muscles tense. Did you tell? I am telling you first. You are closer to the target. Keep watching Contact 2. I will stay on. Nodded and disappeared into the crowd again. Meanwhile, had found a quiet corner and connected to the public information network. His fingers moved quickly across his device as he searched for information about Trade Minister and the transport accident 6 months ago. The official story was simple. A transport ship had suffered a drive failure while traveling between systems. The resulting explosion had killed everyone on board. 18 high-ranking officials, including Trade Minister, a tragedy, an accident, nothing more. But dug deeper, he found passenger lists, he found investigation reports, he found something interesting. The bodies of only 14 of the 18 victims had been recovered. 4 bodies were never found, vaporized by the explosion, according to the official report. Was one of the 4 missing bodies? Kept digging, he found a fringe news article from an independent journalist. It suggested that the transport accident was not an accident at all. It suggested that the 4 missing officials had been specifically targeted. It suggested that there was a group called the Hollow Ones who specialized in creating living weapons, beings modified to carry explosives and toxins hidden inside their own bodies, undetectable by any scanner. The article had been dismissed as a conspiracy theory. The journalist had been discredited. No one had listened. Sent everything to his device. In the terminal had found what he was looking for. The compact summit was being held in the Grand Assembly Hall, located at the center of the station. It was the largest meeting space on Helix 7, capable of holding 10,000 beings. Today, it would host representatives from every member species of the Galactic Compact, the most powerful political gathering in known space. And it was starting in less than 2 hours. Moved through the terminal until he found. He shared the information quietly. The summit hall has its own scanners, he said. Anyone who enters must pass through them. But the scanners are the same technology. Resonance imaging, brain pattern reading, all the same weaknesses. And if someone wanted to attack the summit, they would need to get through those scanners, said. Unless they were already cleared by the terminal scanners when they arrived. There might be a trusted list. People who have already been scanned do not need to be scanned again. Thought about this. The being wearing's face had arrived on a diplomatic vessel. It would have special privileges. It might be able to walk right into the summit hall without any additional security. Her device buzzed. Research had arrived. She read it quickly. Her face went pale. The Hollow Ones, she said quietly. What is that? Asked. A nightmare, a group that modifies living beings into weapons. They take volunteers or victims and surgically alter them. They weave explosives into their organs. They grow toxins in their blood. They make the host body indistinguishable from a normal, healthy being. No scanner can see the difference. And the person carrying the weapon. Sometimes they know, sometimes they do not. Sometimes they are given false memories. They believe they are normal citizens living normal lives, and then a signal is sent and they become what they were always designed to be. Looked at the crowd around them. Thousands of beings moving in all directions. Any one of them could be a weapon waiting to go off. We need to warn security, he said. They will not believe us. We are just humans. We are the strange species that sat on the floor and refused to trust their perfect machines. Shook her head. We need proof. How do we get proof? Was about to answer when's voice came through her earpiece. Contact 2 is moving. It is heading toward the summit hall. It has a maintenance uniform now. It must have taken it from the corridor. Its voice followed. Is moving too, and contacts 3 and 4 are converging. They are all heading the same direction. Made a decision. Everyone, new positions. Intercept the contacts before they reach the hall. Non-lethal takedowns only. We need at least one of them alive to prove what is happening. She started moving through the crowd, her hand reaching for the weapon hidden under her jacket. It was a small stunner, not powerful, but enough to drop most species. Fell into step beside her. The young engineer looked scared but determined. Are we really going to fight them? Asked. Not if we are lucky, said. If we are lucky, we will stop them before anyone gets hurt. If we are unlucky. She did not finish the sentence. She did not have to. The storm was coming, and they were the only ones who could see it. caught up to Contact 2 in a narrow corridor behind the main terminal. The alien, a tall being with blue scales and long limbs, was walking quickly toward a service lift that would take it down to the maintenance level beneath the summit hall. It was wearing a stolen maintenance uniform. It moved with purpose. It did not look back. Was faster. She came up behind it without making a sound. Her hand reached for the pressure point on the back of its neck, a spot that would cause most species to collapse without permanent harm. But the alien was not like most species. It spun around at the last moment, moving with a speed that should have been impossible. Its arm shot out and caught by the throat, lifting her off the ground as if she weighed nothing. "Human," it said, its voice cold and strange. "You should not have followed." Did not panic. She had been in worse situations. Her hand found the knife strapped to her thigh, and she drove it into the alien's arm. The creature dropped her. But it did not scream, it did not bleed. Instead, the wound in its arm opened wider, and saw something that made her blood turn to ice. Inside the arm, woven between muscle and bone, was a mass of dark organic material pulsing with a faint red light. It looked like living tissue, but it was not. It was something else entirely. "Bomb," gasped into her earpiece. "Contact 2 is a walking bomb. The explosive is inside its body, integrated into its flesh." The alien looked at its wounded arm. Then it looked at. Its eyes were empty now, all personality gone. Whatever had been controlling it had taken over completely. "You are too late," it said. "We are already everywhere." It lunged at her, rolled to the side, and came up fighting. She was smaller, but she was human, and humans had spent thousands of years learning how to kill things bigger than themselves. She struck the alien in the joints, aiming for weak points. She moved constantly, never letting it grab her again. But she could not stop it. Every time she wounded it, the creature simply kept coming. Pain meant nothing to it. Its body was already dead in every way that mattered. It was just a delivery system now, carrying destruction toward its target. Made a choice. She pulled a small device from her belt, an emergency beacon that had given each crew member. She pressed the button. Then she threw herself at the alien, wrapped her arms around its legs, and brought it crashing to the ground. She shouted into her earpiece, "I cannot stop it. It will reach the hall if someone does not help." The response came immediately. "Is on his way. Hold it as long as you can." Held on, the alien clawed at her, tearing gashes in her arms and back. She gritted her teeth and refused to let go. 20 seconds felt like 20 hours, then arrived at a full run. He did not slow down. He crashed into the alien with all his weight, knocking it away from. In his hand was something that looked like a small metal rod. "Close your eyes," he shouted. Covered her face. The rod activated. A pulse of energy exploded outward, filling the corridor with blinding light and a sound like thunder. When opened her eyes again, the alien was on the ground, twitching but unable to move. "Neural disruptor," said, breathing hard. "It will not last long. We need to contain this thing." "The bomb!" "I know. We need to find out how to stop it from detonating." He pulled out his device and called, "Medical emergency. Corridor 7B, I need you here now." Across the station, things were moving fast. Had intercepted Contact 3. A small, furry being that had tried to enter the summit hall through a side entrance. Had simply walked up to it, smiled his easy smile, and asked if it needed help finding its way. The creature had tried to run, was faster. A quick strike to its head and the Contact was down, but could see the same organic material pulsing beneath its fur. Another bomb, another weapon walking on legs. "Contact 3 secured," he reported. "But it is the same as described. The explosive is part of its body. I do not know how to disarm it." Its voice came through the earpiece. "Is working on it. Keep the Contact contained and away from crowds." "What about Contact 4? There was a pause, then its voice, shaking slightly. "I see it. Contact 4 is at the main entrance to the summit hall. It is talking to the guards." "Do not engage," ordered. "You are not trained for this." "But it is going to get inside. The guards are checking its credentials. They are going to let it through." "Stay back." But did not stay back. She did not know what she was doing. She was an engineer, not a fighter. She had never hit anyone in her life. But she thought about what had told her, about hope, about the 300 people who died because no one stopped the weapon in time. She could not let that happen again. Walked up to the guards with the most confused expression she could manage. "Excuse me," she said loudly. "I think I am lost. Is this the observation deck? I was told there was a beautiful view of the nebula from here." The guards looked at her with annoyance. Contact 4, a gray-skinned alien with too many joints, looked at her with something else. Recognition, perhaps understanding. "Human," Contact 4 said. "You are one of the ones who waited at the gate." "Yes, that is me. I am sorry, I am so confused. Everything on this station looks the same. Can you help me?" Contact 4's eyes narrowed. It knew something was wrong. It started to push past the guards toward the hall entrance. Panicked, she did the only thing she could think of. She pretended to trip and fell directly into Contact 4, grabbing onto its arm as she went down. "Oh no, I am so clumsy. I am so sorry." The guards moved to help her. Contact 4 tried to shake her off, but held on with all her strength, making a scene, creating chaos, buying time. "Someone help me up. My ankle. I think I twisted my ankle." Contact 4 finally pushed her away and stepped toward the hall. But it was too late, had arrived. She came out of the crowd like a striking snake. One hand grabbed Contact 4's neck. The other pressed a stunner against its spine. The weapon discharged with a soft hum, and Contact 4 collapsed. The guards shouted in alarm. Weapons appeared, pointing at. "Everyone stay calm," said, raising her hands. "This being is a terrorist carrying an explosive device inside its body. Scan it if you do not believe me. Deep scan, not the standard resonance imaging. Look for organic explosives integrated into the tissue." One of the guards, with military markings, stepped forward. "That is Trade Minister's assistant. It was cleared by our scanners." "Your scanners cannot see what I am telling you about. Please, just scan it again." The hesitated. Then it pulled out a handheld device and ran it over Contact 4's unconscious body. The device beeped. Thus many eyes went wide. "Organic explosive compound detected," it said, voice shaking. "Approximately 2 kilograms integrated throughout the body cavity." Everything changed in that moment. Alarms began to sound. Guards poured out of the summit hall. The crowd in the terminal started to panic, running in all directions. But one being walked against the crowd. One being moved calmly toward the hall entrance as if nothing was wrong. The false saw it. She started to move toward it. But the guards were blocking her now, asking questions, demanding explanations. She could not get through. She shouted into her earpiece. "Is heading for the hall. We are blocked. You are the only one close enough." There was a moment of silence. Then the old captain's voice came through, tired but steady. "I see it. I am moving." Stepped out of the crowd and walked toward the being wearing a dead minister's face. His old legs moved slowly. His hands were empty. He was just an old man with gray hair and lines on his face. But when saw him, it stopped. "You should move aside, human," it said. "You cannot stop what is coming." Did not move aside. He stood in the path, blocking the way to the hall. "Maybe not," he said, "but I can talk, and talking is what I do best." The false stared at him with eyes that were not its own, and began to speak. Had seen many things in his long life. He had watched stars explode and planets die. He had survived storms that would have destroyed lesser ships. He had lost friends and found new ones across the vast emptiness of space. But he had never stood in front of a living bomb and tried to talk it out of exploding. The false stared at him with empty eyes. Inside that body, somewhere deep in the organic machinery that had replaced its organs, was enough explosive material to kill everyone in the summit hall. Thousands of the galaxy's most important leaders, the heads of 12 species, all of them would die if this creature took another 50 steps. "You are a human," the creature said. Its voice was strange, like two voices speaking at once, one alive and one dead. "You understand nothing of our cause." "Maybe," said. He did not move. "But I understand what it feels like to be so desperate that you would destroy yourself to make a point." The creature tilted its head. Something flickered in its eyes, a spark of the person it used to be, perhaps, still trapped somewhere inside. "What do you know of desperation, human?" I know everything about it. His voice was calm, steady like a river flowing over ancient stones. I was born on a planet called Earth in a country that does not exist anymore. My family was poor. We had nothing. When I was young, I joined a cause that promised to change the world. I believed in it so completely that I was willing to die for it. The creature said nothing, but it did not move forward either. It was listening. I almost did die. I strapped explosives to my chest and walked into a building full of people I had been taught to hate. I was going to press the button. I was going to end myself and take them all with me. Behind, the guards had frozen. The crowd had pulled back. No one moved. No one spoke. The terminal had become as silent as space itself. "What stopped you?" the creature asked. A woman, she was sitting near the entrance, holding a baby. The baby was crying. The woman looked tired, so tired, like she had not slept in days, but she was singing to the baby very softly, trying to make it stop crying. His eyes were distant now, looking at something only he could see. I watched her for a long time, and I realized something. She was not my enemy. She was not anyone's enemy. She was just a tired mother with a crying baby, doing her best to survive in a world that did not care about her at all. If I pressed that button, I would not be striking a blow against oppression. I would just be killing a tired woman and her child. The creature's hands trembled slightly. The dead voice was fading. Something else was speaking now, something wounded and lost. "But we have been wronged," it said, its voice cracked. "The compact does not listen. They take and give nothing back. They speak of unity while our people starve. I know," said gently. "I am not saying your pain is not real. I am not saying you do not have reasons, but I am asking you to look around. Look at these people. Most of them have never hurt you. Most of them do not even know your species exists. If you do this thing, you will not change anything. You will just create more pain, more anger, more people who want revenge." Tears were running down the creature's face now. Real tears, not programmed responses. "I do not remember who I was," it whispered. "They took my memories. They put this thing inside me. I woke up one day and I knew I had to come here. I knew I had to do this, but I do not know why anymore." Took a step forward. The guards behind him tensed, but no one stopped him. "Then let it go," he said. "Whatever they put inside you, whatever they took away, you are still a person. You can still choose. You can choose right now to be more than a weapon." The creature looked at the hall behind. Thousands of beings were inside, waiting for a summit that might never happen. It could end them all with a thought. The signal was there, waiting in its brain. All it had to do was say yes. "If I stop," the creature said, "they will just send someone else. The hollow ones never give up. They will keep trying until they succeed. Then we will keep stopping them, over and over, for as long as it takes. That is what we do. That is what humans are good at." Reached out his hand. His old, wrinkled hand with its spots and scars. "Come with me," he said. "Tell us everything you know about the hollow ones. Help us stop them. Turn your pain into something that saves lives instead of ending them." For a long, terrible moment, the creature did not move. Then its hand reached out and took. The bomb did not explode. 3 months later, stood before the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Compact. The hall was enormous, a curved space that seemed to stretch forever, filled with representatives from 100 worlds. Clicked their mandibles in the upper galleries. Floating beings drifted near the ceiling. Creatures of every shape and size watched the human woman standing at the central podium. "You have asked me to explain human security philosophy," said. Her voice was amplified throughout the hall. "You want to know why we sat by the gate, why we did not trust your scanners, why we saw what your machines could not see." She paused, looking out at the sea of alien faces. "The answer is simple. We spent thousands of years killing each other in every way imaginable. We poisoned our food. We burned our cities. We invented weapons that could destroy planets. We learned to deceive each other so completely that even our own minds could be fooled." Murmurs ran through the crowd. Some of the aliens shifted uncomfortably. "This is not something we are proud of. It is the darkest part of our history, but it taught us something valuable. It taught us that any system can be broken, any security can be bypassed, any trust can be betrayed. So we do not rely on systems alone. We rely on each other. We watch. We wait. We never assume we are safe." Supervisor was in the audience. The security chief had requested permission to attend, wanting to hear what the humans would say, found its many eyes in the crowd and nodded slightly. Your scanners are not broken. They work exactly as they were designed, but they were designed by species who never learned to fear the way we fear. Species who never had to imagine the depths of what one desperate person might do. She straightened her back. We are offering to share what we have learned. We will help you watch your gates. We will teach you to see the signs that machines cannot see. Not because we are better than you, but because we are different from you. And sometimes difference is exactly what you need. The Grand Assembly voted that day. The decision was almost unanimous. Humanity would be given a new role in the Galactic Compact, not as soldiers or conquerors, but as watchers, security consultants, the living early warning system for a galaxy that had never truly understood danger. On board the Steady Compass, preparing to leave Helix 7, found on the observation deck. They want 3 of us to stay behind, said, and have volunteered. They will be the first human security consultants in galactic history. Nodded. She was watching the station through the window, its lights blinking in the darkness. Is this a good thing? Asked quietly. Humans being known for this, for being paranoid, for expecting the worst. Thought about the question for a long time. Maybe, she said finally, maybe it means we have found a way to turn our worst traits into something that protects people instead of hurting them. Maybe that is the best any of us can hope for. The ship's engines hummed as they powered up. His voice came over the intercom, calling everyone to their stations. As the Steady Compass pulled away from Helix 7, looked back at the station through the bridge windows. Somewhere inside those metal walls, the first human security consultants were beginning their work. They would watch the gates. They would look for the signs. They would protect beings who had never known how to protect themselves from their own kind. Smiled slightly. They will learn, he said softly to no one in particular. Give them time. They will learn to watch the gates too. The ship turned toward the stars. Behind them, Helix 7 continued to spin slowly in the darkness, its lights blinking like distant stars. And in the terminals, in the corridors, in the places where travelers passed through every day, a new protocol had begun. Humans were watching, and for the first time in galactic history, that was a comfort instead of a threat.